can't be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me. And I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's up? FT Live, Tuesday, right? Braun, Pierzynski, Todd Kratz. Todd Father, you weren't with us yesterday, but in my mind, it's what we're all about. We had Chris Sale on the show, and a lot of his answers were picked up by a lot of other people and respected. And I know there's a lot of people that want to do their own versions of Foul Territory, but that's what makes us unique, is that combo with Chris Sale. And it goes beyond Pierzynski giving him shit right from the jump because they played together, but it was really good.
I did see a part of it. I was a little jealous, if you want the truth, because I played with him too, man. There's some funny stories we could have went along the lines of using the machete on the jerseys and stuff, man. We had some inside tracks on that one, but we'll get him next time when he comes on.
Do you have some inside tracks on the machete with the jersey? You were on that team.
I watched him. I watched him cut every single jersey in front of my face. It was pretty crazy. But he's a beauty of a person. He'll tell you how it is. I don't know if you got into it. He's probably one of the better ping pong players I've ever seen too. So next time we'll get him. That was a great interview, though. You guys did awesome.
Thank you. No, we didn't get into the ping pong. Yeah, I had a bunch of questions still to go.
Oh, there's a million questions.
We ran out of time.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get him back. You said we'll get him back at some point.
He said he texted me afterwards and said he wanted to come back on in spring training. So once he gets his new Braves digs and he's not making that drive to Northport every day from where he lives a little bit farther south down there. He said he wants to come back on. Chris, there's a lot of stories we could tell him. Listen, my favorite answer of him was, I don't really want to answer that, but I'm going to anyways. That was the best.
Let me check my schedule. We're on every day for 2 hours. We can make some more time for Chris Sale. We're going to talk in 10 minutes to Kyle Glaser, one of Baseball America's finest, who covers the game internationally. We'll go over some prospects, but also Shōta Imanaga, who has to sign essentially in the next couple of days if he wants to play in Major League Baseball. So we'll get to that with him in a sec. Before we do that, let's charge the mound, powered by Teza. And we're going to look at some teams that are doing things and not doing things. So there was an article put out there by a couple people in The Athletic, Chad Jennings and Stephen Nesbitt, saying which MLB teams have filled their needs this offseason, which still have work to do. So they said teams who fulfilled needs. I'll read this out, okay? You guys let this marinate, and then I'll let you pick apart what you want. Teams who fulfilled needs: Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Yankees, Cardinals, Phillies. And obviously they have a great write-up, so check it out. Making progress: Braves, Royals, Tigers, Reds. Spinning tires: Red Sox, Padres, Mariners, Mets, Angels. Still salvageable: Cubs, Blue Jays, Giants. Pencils down. Which team or teams stand out to you on the list that I just mentioned here where you potentially really agree or really disagree? Who wants to go first? Raise your hand. AJ?
Well, first of all, teams who fulfilled needs: Cardinals. They got 3 pitchers, but they needed like top of the rotation guys. And Sonny Gray's good. Don't get me wrong. He's good. Lance Lynn I love Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. I love those guys. But they're not really top of the rotation guys at their age, are they?
Can I present a counter?
And I know what you're going to say. They're innings eaters and they're going to give them more innings.
No. That's not what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Sonny Gray was a top 3 Cy Young finisher this past season.
Understood.
I'm just presenting that.
But they needed more than one of that, though.
Sure.
Right? And listen, Lance is great, and I love Lance. And Kyle Gibson gives you innings. They both give you innings, and they both take the ball, and I love them to death. But if you're the Cardinals, man, you need that splash signing for me to try to compete. Which was, I don't know, an Ohtani, make maybe Montgomery, who they had, bring him back, something like that. A bigger name with a bigger contract to get people a little more excited. Because even if you talk to Cardinal fans now, they're not really that excited over even Sonny Gray, who again was pretty good last year.
Who's better, Sonny Gray or Jordan Montgomery? They both have their pros and cons. That's my point. I mean, I know. They looked at it and said we could get Sonny Gray for half the price, and they did. They got him for 3 years, 75. Jordan Montgomery's going to get like 6 years, 150.
And the other one making progress, the Braves. The Braves made a lot of progress.
Yeah,
did a lot of shit. How can they? I mean, teams have filled needs for me. They should be right there. They got a left fielder after losing Rosario. They got Chris Sale to fill their 4th spot in the rotation. Like I told Chris yesterday, you're the 4th starter, bro. And he was like, well, if I suck, people won't boo me or whatever. It's an awesome answer. But, I mean, to me, they did more than that. So, I don't know. I think maybe the Cardinals and the Braves should be flip-flop.
Okay. Top father?
Dude, he took the words right out of my mouth. I was talking to Jesse earlier. I said, I need all the Braves signings. Those guys should be up there on progress made. The priorities they've done so far, first off with Ronaldo Lopez, that could be lightning in a bottle. He's a guy that, might be a starter now. I think they got him for a good deal, and if not a starter, he's going to throw 100 in the bullpen. So that's one. I wrote a couple down. Jared Kelenic, I mean, he's a pretty good baseball player too as well. So the Braves, I think, should be up a little higher. I mean, they have a bunch of signs. And then Chris Sale, I mean, you never know what can happen with him. He might come out, hotter weather, come out and dominate like he always does. I'm looking for a big year from him. But I was definitely going to go on that Braves kick because they did a lot of signings and ones that we're going to look back on, as I said earlier, and we're going to be like, oh, shoot, they did sign this guy. What a great deal. So, yeah, I would go with the Braves being priorities met.
Red Sox and Mariners. Red Sox and Mariners, I get it. The trends say they're never going to spend all this stuff. It's still salvageable. They can still, if the Mariners add a Matt Chapman, for instance, to third base, now all of a sudden you have the big 3 up the middle, that starting rotation and elite left side defense. To me, that's still salvageable. Some people will say, well, they're not going to beat the Astros. They're not going to beat the Rangers.
They're also not going to sign Matt Chapman.
Do what?
They're also not going to sign Matt Chapman.
Okay. But
I mean, it's great.
Salvageable. Still salvageable. Like the A's aren't on here anywhere. The A's aren't doing anything. We know that.
The White Sox are on there, and they signed a bunch of people.
They ain't doing anything. They got the Erik Kratz roster lined up, plus Martin Maldonado. But the Red Sox, same thing. It's salvageable. They can still do something. Are they going to? And I guess that's why they're in the spinning their tires area there. It's still salvageable. To me, if you think the Cubs can spend money, the Red Sox can spend that plus. And whether they're going to or not,
agreed.
What about the Giants? They're still salvageable. They lost out on Ohtani. They've lost out on Nobu. Lost out on Nobu. They lost out on Ohtani. Now the rumors are they're going to lose out on Imanaga. I mean, I know they signed the center fielder, right? Lee.
Yes.
From Korea.
For big money.
But they going into the offseason, if you would have said, hey, the Giants are only going to get Lee.
They got Robbie Ray.
Robbie Ray helps, but what we found out yesterday is what's he going to pitch this year? The questionable when he's going to be able to pitch this year.
Probably August is my guess.
It could be 40 games out of the playoffs by August. I mean, but the Dodgers.
Keep in mind, there are a lot of free agents left.
Yeah, but which one of these fits on the Dodgers? I mean, on the Giants.
I think the Giants and Cubs are still going to be very active. I think they're going to be the two most active teams.
They need to be.
Remaining.
Active or actually signing?
Signing, right. Not just offers. I think they are going to sign players. I think Blake Snell goes to either the Giants or the Yankees. I think San Francisco is going to be hot after Blake Snell.
Not the Angels.
Potentially hot after Jordan Montgomery, too. I'm not buying anything the Angels are selling right now. I think the Angels are going to be faking it and saying we're trying for guys, but they're not actually going to get them. I could see them actually going for someone like Imanaga, but I'm just not sure what's going on there now with Ohtani leaving. But for the Giants, there's still plenty to be done. Could they sign a Matt Chapman?
They could, but will they?
Yeah. Well, where else do you have these guys going?
That's the problem with I'm looking at this list right now, right? Bellinger makes the most sense for the Cubs.
Correct.
Right? I mean, 100%. Snell, Yankees he would look really good as a Yankee.
But so he would look good as a Giant, too. Here's the big board still available.
Jordan Montgomery's not going to New York. I don't care what anyone says.
I agree.
He's not going back there.
I think he's going
better
to Texas
which
New
Chicago?
York?
Or Yankees. He's definitely not going to the Yankees.
I'm busting.
Rangers or Cubs?
Yeah,
Montgomery.
Chapman is the one that to me you got to. Where does he fit?
Giants.
Mariners.
No,
The Mariners aren't spending money.
Are you saying that just to fuck around, or are you being
Yes.
serious?
Okay. Hey,
Yes.
let me ask you this:
The Mariners are capped. Anything they do, they might still do stuff, but it has to stay here. They can't add money.
Well, they can do it. They can stay here, but then they got to trade something to get it back down to where they can make them. It's kind of like what the Padres are doing. Every time the Padres trade something, they sign some guy.
Right, except the Padres' payroll is like 200-something million, and the Mariners' payroll is 135.
True. Okay, so then, like, where does a Josh Hader fit?
A lot of places.
Okay, but what team has the money to buy him?
He fits with
Yankees.
The Yankees.
Okay.
The Dodgers.
But if the Yankees sign him, they're not signing
the
someone
Rangers,
else.
The Phillies. I already got to 5 just off the top of my head.
Okay, but which team's going to spend the money though?
I think all of them. Any of the teams I mentioned.
All of them? They're going to dish out a 5-year, $110 million contract.
Even the Cubs make sense potentially.
I agree.
Go back to council.
Here's my question. Who now, which owner now, because you're talking about the Angels, and I think of the Nats back in the day when they had every Boris client. Which owner now has the connection to Boris that's most like locked into that connection with Boris, just like it was with I'm blanking. I'm thinking is Lerner, the owner of the Nats. Anyway,
yeah,
it was like he was always going over top of Rizzo or the other GM and signing directly with the owner. Who has that connection now? And could Snell sign a 7-year deal with the Nats kind of thing if there's still that connection? Because he could be that Jason Worth too early sign, and yet it brings more people in.
Hey, quit stealing my lines. I said that a couple weeks ago, and you guys all laughed in my face.
You said that about Snell.
I said that about the Nationals. I said, watch the Nationals to be sneaky and sign some dudes, and then all of a sudden, by the way, can we put the board back up? I had no one prediction that I'm going to get right.
Stop. I know.
Teoscar Hernandez is going to sign with the Dodgers. So I'm going to say for about $23.5 million.
Deferred.
You're like Nostradamus.
That's right.
Yes, we'll
Notre Dame.
Don't worry.
Notre Dame.
All right, my last thing is about the Mets. I think they're making progress, even though it might not be the biggest names out there. I mean, Hauser, I love that guy. I know Kratz, you love him too. I think he could be a dominant pitcher like he's been before. I mean, you got Luis Severino, hoping and praying he can come back. That could be lightning in a bottle too. I guess that's my word of the day. My little saying, lightning in a bottle. But they got a few guys. I think where they're at right now with spinning tires, I think they're making progress. That's where I would say the Mets are.
Hauser dominant?
No.
Yeah, what?
I think he could be
in AAA.
No, he's a good. He's a good. He's a
good back in the rotation guy. He's a guy.
He's not a number one, but I still think he can be that guy you need. What 3, 4, 5 guy? Yeah,
5. He's the guy. He's the guy that I think everybody's looking for. That has you have your 3 starters. You're fitting him in behind those guys. He's a big league pitcher who's going to give you 5 to 6 innings of ground balls. He's not going to punch out the world, so he's never going to be that 2-3 guy.
Nothing wrong with that, though, right?
In the right stadium, I mean, I think ground balls play for sure.
No doubt. That's all.
Okay, and we'll get to Imanaga in a few minutes with Kyle Glaser. Right before that, some news just coming in from Christina Di Nicola, who does a great job covering the Marlins. Rachel Balkovec has agreed to become the new Marlins Director of Player Development. We've had Rachel on. She's really smart, works her ass off, going to rise through the ranks. And you know what's interesting with Rachel is, so she was the first woman to be a full-time manager for a major league affiliated team. That was Tampa under the Yankees organization for the past couple years. She was also the first as a full-time hitting coach in an MLB organization before that. And my guess is she's probably the first female director of player development is my guess, right?
Unless somebody else had the same moniker. Sometimes those names
would be the only one.
Right. It could be Kim.
Interchanged.
So congratulations to her. And the one thing I want to point out is you're looking and you're going, okay, she was just a minor league manager. And so you might think she's on a manager track. She has been very clear publicly that she wants to be on a front office track. And this puts her in that realm. She felt like she wanted to, get the experience of running a dugout at the minor league level. and then transitioning into the player development job. So what do you think of the track that she's on in terms of a career path, the way that she's gathered the coaching and the minor league coaching experience and now can bring that into the front office world?
I love it. I think it lines up exactly what she said here on the show. She doesn't want to be a big league manager. She wants to be a general manager. And she keeps checking all the boxes off the things that she hasn't done or she wants to learn about. And it's awesome. And hopefully she can see, she sees how the Yankees were run. Now the Marlins have already had Gary Denbo running their player development, and how that's going, are they developing young players? I don't know. It's probably too soon to learn, but now she's going to learn how that interaction between big league club, minor league club, and also develop something. She's well on her way. And she is as much as like Sale was super honest and super like upfront about what he was going to say, she's the same way. She's like, not all women need to be in coaching just because you're a woman. You need to be qualified, and she's becoming more and more qualified.
Yeah, we need more straight shooters in our sport in general. So I give her a ton of credit. That's a great. I do too. It's a great hire by the Miami Marlins. Good job there by Peter Bendix and company running the front office now. Use the discount code FOUL, FOUL, for 20% off your first order at TizaEnergy.com. If you know anyone out there that dips, tell them to stop and get the nicotine-free, tobacco-free replacement. It's called Tiza. You can look up more information at TizaEnergy.com. We're going to bring on Kyle Glaser in just a sec. So we're bringing him on partially because Shōta Imanaga has to sign very soon. He's actually taken it almost to the deadline here, Todd Father. 2 days to go before his deadline. And John Heyman's been firing tweets all morning about the sweepstakes. He said, Cubs and Red Sox seen as very much in play on Imanaga. Giants, another possible team among the 5 suitors. Angels appear to be looking elsewhere at the moment. Then he updated that tweet about an hour later saying, hearing now that the Giants are also looking elsewhere, so they are not one of the 5 finalists. There's a lot of good debate out there about what Imanaga can be in the big leagues. I think his floor is like a 4-ish, but I think there's some teams that think that they can kind of make some tweaks and turn him into even as much as a number 2 starter. And he doesn't have the same repertoire as Kodai Senga, but Kodai Senga was, I think, regarded as maybe like a 3-ish. By the end of last season, Top Father, he was pitching like a 1. I mean, he looked like a 1. I watched most of his starts at the end of the year. So I think guys that are coming over from the NPB now are just looking better instantly. You're not getting a lot of misses from Japan right now if you're an ace out there.
Yeah, and it was consistency all the way across. And I think he didn't get too high, he never got too low. It's one of those things in Japan. They teach these guys, not only how to pitch, the different ways they can pitch and how to go about themselves. And I think the demeanor of him was just perfect. I mean, he lost 2 of the top pitchers in Major League Baseball over the past 10 some odd years, if not more. And then he's like, you know what? I'll just step in and be the number 1 and just dominate no matter what our record looked like. So kudos to him, man. That was an exceptional year he had.
He did struggle on the road a lot, though, and he walked a lot of guys. So for him to be an officially like a 1, he's got to pitch better on the road this year.
Okay.
And he's got to lose some walks. Because he did walk a ton of guys.
He did. I think his walk rate got a little better.
It got better as the season went, and his road splits got better. But at home, he was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. At Citi Field, he was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
2. He's right now he's a 2 for sure. But if you want to be that 1, and listen, Kodai Senga is really good. I'm not, and I agree with everything you said, Todd, 100%. The thing is, if you want to be a 1, like you look at Scherzer and Verlander and Kershaw, they don't walk anybody, and their home roads are pretty even most of the time. That was the thing for me about him. I remember we were doing BetMGM strikeout K props. If he was pitching at home, it was like, take the over, dude, every time. Because at Citi Field, that dude was unhittable. And then he'd go on the road, and you're like, oh, man, it's only 5. Why is it so low? He'd walk 5 and punch out 4, and he had 100 pitches. So it was like, okay, if he gets better at that, he definitely is a 1.
I want to talk to Kyle.
our friend Kyle Glaser about Imanaga, and we can get his thoughts on how, there's a comp, if there is one, to Senga. Baseball America's Kyle Glaser joining us right now. Kyle, great to see you. Great to have you back. Hope you had a great holiday. Imanaga is the talk of the town right now because he has to sign in the next couple days if he wants to play in Major League Baseball. So digesting some of what we just talked about, and also with Senga coming over last year and making $75 million on his deal and then looking like a top of the rotation starter, how do you see this all shaking out? What do you think?
Well, one of the key differences between Kodai Senga and Shōta Imanaga, Kodai Senga always had premium stuff. You go back to the 2017 World Baseball Classic at Dodger Stadium, it was wow stuff. Teams viewed him as a potential number two-ish front of the rotation type starter. The issue was he had some injury concerns later in his career in Japan and the walks, as you guys alluded to. But he was on a completely different level than Shōta Imanaga. He was a premium stuff, front of the rotation caliber guy who just had some questions. Imanaga is really not that same level of pitcher, despite the money he might get, because the market is a little bit different this year. It's much more that soft tossing, touch and feel lefty. He's got a solid fastball in the low 90s, can get up to the mid 90s in short bursts, plays up with some riding life. The splitter's good. He can manipulate it a little bit. It's more of a ground ball pitch than a swing and miss pitch. The big thing with Shōta Imanaga is he doesn't spin the ball great. His slider's kind of on one plane. It gets hit when it's in the zone, and his curveball is kind of a fringy pitch. So a lot of teams are hoping that they can help firm up his slider a little bit, maybe give it a little more tilt, maybe get it to be more of a chase pitch. I've personally been surprised that there's a sense he might get more than Senga, just because Senga was a completely different animal in terms of his ability and what he accomplished in Japan. Imanaga is more that if you really, really love him, he's probably a number 4 starter. Most think he's a number 5, and some think he probably fits best as a bulk man, long reliever type on really top-end teams. So he's a good pitcher who can help you. Everyone needs solid number 4 and 5 starters. Todd, AJ, Kratz, you guys can talk about how if you have three great starters and the back of your rotation's a mess, it's tough to win. But he's not really the same level of pitcher as Senga. It's two completely different tiers of pitcher.
I love how you kind of broke him down right there, because that was part of my question, breaking down how he pitches. For one, who would you compare him to in the major leagues right now? And the way you were talking, you signed this guy, he has to start in the major leagues right away, I would assume, right?
Yeah, he's definitely a guy who goes straight to the majors. Again, you can plug him in number 4 or 5 in your rotation. In terms of a comp, it's tough. Maybe if you really, really like it, it's an end result similar to Marco Gonzalez. Again, different type of pitcher. Gonzalez had 4 pitches and that great changeup, but kind of that similar role where maybe he ends up as that number 4. He can have a number 3 type season at his peak, but over the course of his tenure, he's probably that number 4. That's kind of seen as the best case scenario. In terms of maybe the most likely scenario, pick and choose your favorite back end lefty starter who's kind of a touch and feel 2-pitch guy.
Is he possibly Keigawa? Do you remember Keigawa, or was that?
Yeah,
before?
I do.
Because
I think anyone who's signed Shōta Imanaga wants him to be better than Keigawa. Obviously, that did not go well. I think there's a sense he'll be better than that. Again, I think that there is a sense he can stick in a major league rotation. It's probably just, again, going to be more that back of the rotation. As opposed to Senga, you always saw the front of the rotation type stuff. He just had some more questions. Imanaga's stuff doesn't quite reach that same level.
Kyle, we had Saris on yesterday, and he loves Imanaga. And he said, You just said something interesting that kind of was contradictory. He said he had the most ride on his 4-seamer out of anybody, remember?
Said that
he had the most
as soon as he hits the big leagues,
he'll have the most ride.
He'll have the most fastball ride in the big leagues.
But then he just said his ball doesn't spin very much, so I'm confused. Does spin not equal ride? I thought ride equals spin.
Sorry, when I say spin the ball, the breaking stuff. He doesn't spin a breaking ball very well. He definitely gets a lot of good movement on his 4-seam fastball, and that's what helps it play up. It sits 89, 93. It can get up to 94, 95 in short bursts. There's no question. That thing has some good ride. When I say didn't spin the ball great, I was referring to spinning a breaking ball.
Okay.
My other question, so I'll piggyback off that in 2 ways here. So, Kyle, number one, if he does end up, say, getting $100 million, sure, the market is in play here for starting pitching. But also, I think if you backtrack to last year and you look at what Kodai Senga just did, if you could re-rack that, I think he might get close to $200 million on the free agent market right now. I think the Mets ended up getting a steal and a bargain as long as he stays healthy and on the mound. I mean, I think there were people so concerned about his walk rate. Yeah. They were like, he might be so crazy out of control that he can't even be a starter, right? Like I felt like the barometer was all over the place with him. It was like, oh, he could be a 2 or he could be in the bullpen, right? So Imanaga seems safer. So just curious your thoughts, based off what AJ said. Eno seems like he thinks he's going to be a 2 or a 3.
Oh, yeah,
is my guess. And you're saying, I mean, his upside, his ceiling is a 4. So what do you think?
Yeah, it depends on perspective, right? So I come from more of a background of talking to scouts who are in the Pacific Rim who are watching him, and that has been the scouting perspective, that this is a number 4 ceiling. Number 5 is sort of your median outcome, and maybe worst case scenario, he's a bulk relief type. Again, you can certainly look at things analytically and perceive a higher ceiling. But just after extensive reporting on Imanaga for well over a year now, really going back a few years, I've been talking to scouts about him. It's been pretty consistent. That's how they see him.
And just looking at his numbers and everything, he's really just a fastball changeup guy, like you said. Could he be, because if you read the bottom of the screen, we have BetMGM, we're going to have to pick Rookie of the Year. Is there any validity to the fact that he could, if he goes in the American League? My opinion is Evan Carter is the tops. I think he's the bee's knees up there. That's my choice. But because National League, you got to pick Yamamoto. But is he a American League top 3 candidate?
I think there's certainly a chance, right? Again, you're talking about someone who's mature. He's able to really read swings. He does a good job mixing his arsenal. He can get a little bit one-sided to his glove side a little bit. That's something that we'll see if major league hitters are able to dial in on. But look, anytime you have a pitcher who has pitched at the highest level of baseball in the world that isn't Major League Baseball, which is NPB, that has had success in NPB and has shown his stuff plays a bit against big league hitters. We saw him miss some bats in the World Baseball Classic last year, including in the gold medal game against Team USA. You certainly have a chance. Again, it's going to come down to the right team, the right coaching staff, the right ballpark, if he stays healthy. But if you were to tell me that Shōta Imanaga comes over, goes 12-8 with an ERA in the high 3s, low 4s, and is 4th in Rookie of the Year voting, I could certainly see that happen.
Pretty.
Wait, who are the? Sorry, go ahead.
No,
go.
No, if you're staying on that topic, go right ahead.
On Rookie of the Year,
I want to know who the 3 guys he was going to put ahead of him. He said 4th. Churio.
Wait.
Depending on which league.
Let's do. You want to do American League? I have some names.
Yeah, sorry, Todd, but that was like, wait a second here. I want to know who the 3 ahead of him were.
Wait. Evan Carter. Go ahead, Kratz. I'll help.
Evan Carter and the field. I'll give you the field. I'm taking Evan Carter.
All right, I'm going to give you a few more names.
Jackson Holiday.
Might
not even start in the big leagues.
Ooh, okay, but he could come up in a few weeks. Wyatt Langford, also going to be a stud with the Rangers. That's why they're really not worried about their offense. And Junior Caminero, if he's up right from the jump with the Rays, short and third. Those are some other names. Not intrigued?
I'm with you, Kratzy.
2 of those guys are in the American League. Okay. Holiday.
No, all those guys are in the American League.
Churio plays for the Brewers. They're in the National.
I said Holiday.
Junior Caminero.
National League.
Junior Caminero.
We might as well lay this out, and then Kyle can comment because he knows prospects better than we do.
Of course.
National League. Yamamoto, Churio, Noel V. Marte is still a rookie, even though he came up last year. He's eligible. Jordan Lawler's still a rookie. Pete Crow Armstrong, and I'll give you one more on the pitching side, Paul Skeens. So, Kyle, want to size what? Yeah, of course. But you want to size up both sides here for us?
Yeah, I think right now, if you were to handicap the field in the American League, Evan Carter has to be the favorite. I mean, let's not forget this kid was batting either 3 or 4 hole in the World Series last year. Every World Series game he was batting either third or cleanup. Hit 300 in the postseason, over 300 during the regular season. Played great defense. He has to be the favorite in the American League right now, just given he's gotten there and shown he can hit major league pitching right from the jump. Jackson Holliday is the number one prospect in baseball for us at Baseball America. We saw him get some AAA time last year. He's now got another offseason to get bigger, get stronger, just kind of make some adjustments. It wouldn't shock me if Jackson Holliday has a fantastic camp and maybe is able to win a spot in the Orioles infield on opening day. So Carter and Holliday, to me, are kind of the two big guys in the American League. Again, there's always players who come up, maybe surprise, are better than expected as rookies, but those would be the two guys in the AL for me that are, kind of at the top of the field. Junior Caminero, again, we saw him come up last year. Depending on what role the Rays want to put him in, he's really a third baseman. They have Isaac Paredes there, but he's a good player who's going to get an opportunity. So I think those would be the top three in the American League. Then the National League. It starts with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. It will be a shock if he does not win Rookie of the Year as long as he stays healthy. This is a guy who has a chance to be one of the best pitchers in baseball, not rookies in baseball, best pitchers in baseball from day one. He's got to be the favorite there. You mentioned Jordan Lawler. I think we're going to see Paul Skeens pretty early. He's a guy who could really adjust to Major League Baseball fairly early, similar to how we saw Steven Strasburg and Garrett Cole come up their first years after being drafted. This guy fits in that bucket, has a chance to make an impact right away. So again, there's so much young talent in the game today. We see it year after year after year, and 2024 is going to be no exception.
Interesting. Great take, dude, by the way, because when I knew you were coming on here, the first thing I saw was Baseball America. And now I know Eric and AJ can abide to this, but every month that Baseball America magazine came out, everybody's looking like if you had your name in this magazine or you felt like you were someone ever since I was in college on. So it's like, I want you to talk about the importance of these young guys coming up, and the more we can talk about these guys, because these are next up and coming crop that really need to understand they're hitting the ground running and their main focus is to get to the big leagues, but their journey is a big thing too as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, our job at Baseball America, one of our main jobs is to identify who are the best future major leaguers in the minors. And look, it's extensive. We talk to scouts for hundreds of hours over the course of the year. We dive into data. We go out and see these guys ourselves. And ultimately, you're projecting the future. There's going to be some misses in there, but anytime you can highlight some of these super talented players coming up, it's important to do so. And we've seen, again, throughout baseball history, but especially the last couple of years, we've seen so many special young talents coming up. We talk about Ronald Acuna Jr., you talk about Juan Soto, you talk about Fernando Tatis, and it's year after year after year. I got to cover Julio Rodriguez extensively, including during the Olympic qualifying that you were part of, Todd. Remember being in Florida, cover you guys during that. And you can see it there. This was a future superstar. So we see young players continuing to make an impact on the game every single year. Evan Carter being the latest example in the postseason. And there's just more talent coming. And it's a really fun time to be a fan of Major League Baseball and also all the players coming up through the systems.
Yeah, because this is what teams value. Cheap, free, controllable, young talent. So we talk about teams needing to spend. This is where they're spending, and Baseball America gets to reap the benefits of it. I want to ask you about the Jacksons.
Yeah.
Not career-wise, just this season-wise. Yeah. Who is going to have a better year just statistically? Not based on the team that they're on, not in the league, in the division, any of that. Statistically, who will do better in the big leagues this year?
I think it would be Jackson Holliday. Again, just the fact that he's got some AAA time, and also he's just such a polished player. What comes out about him, and again, as you'd expect from the son of an all-star, Matt Holliday, he just has that sixth sense for the game. He knows where to be on the field. He knows what pitches to attack. It's not just raw tools, raw skills, raw ability with him. It's quality at bats. It's good footwork and fundamentals on defense. All the little things that can help make a difference. He has that in spades, really from a remarkably young age. Let's not forget, this kid was a high school draftee who reached AAA in his first full professional season. That's borderline unprecedented, and he continued to perform at every level. He's someone that, again, there's always going to be a big adjustment when you're jumping from the minor leagues to the major leagues, but he's someone, like I said, who has that polish, who has those instincts, who has that just sense for the game that should help him have a soft landing. Jackson Chourio is tremendously talented. He's also shown the ability to adjust. He's a little bit more of a free swinger, and I think that's something that when you look at what will help Jackson Holliday be just a smidge better this year, it's that plate discipline, that ability to recognize balls from strikes and find pitches he can really, really drive on a consistent basis.
Kyle, question for you about the Orioles farm system in general. Where, first of all, are they ranked right in the latest team rankings by Baseball America? Do you know?
Yeah, so we updated them our midseason talent rankings last year. I believe they were number one. We're putting together our organization talent rankings for this upcoming year. We haven't done it yet, so I don't want to say they're definitively in one slot over another, but they will be near the top. Again, they've done a really good job of backfilling their system. And again, part of that is they tanked for so many years in a row. They had a lot of high draft picks, so this was intentional. We have to be aware of that. At the same time, you still have to hit on those picks. A lot of teams have 3, 4, 5 bad years and they blow their draft picks. They're not any better for it. You look at teams like the Royals and A's, that's what's happened with them. The Orioles have hit on their draft picks. They've done a good job helping guys get better and develop, hitters in particular. And as a result, they still have a really good farm system despite graduating Adley Rutschman, despite graduating Gunnar Henderson, despite graduating Grayson Rodriguez. These are frontline talents that when most teams would graduate these guys, their farm system ranking would drop for the right reasons. The point is to get these guys to the majors. But the Orioles have graduated these guys. They still have a lot more coming again, which is a testament to their scouting and player development group.
So let's spin that into a trade, because this team has shown us, and their owner has even said, like, they're not going to spend probably even any $100 million. And he threw out the number 150 at one point last year. And I think that was also just referring to extensions for the guys they already have and love, right? So we know they're not playing in the free agent market. That's obvious. In my mind, besides the Craig Kimbrell signing, yes, that was nice to fill the back end. They have to get a top end starter. Like they make the most sense for Dylan Cease. So when you look at what they have, how easy is it for them to put a deal together? And obviously it does not have to include some of their top young guys. Jackson Holliday doesn't get touched in a Dylan Cease trade, but isn't it still super easy for them to put together a deal that makes sense for both sides? They have a logjam in general with their position players, don't they?
And a huge logjam. It's extremely easy for them to put together a trade package for anyone they want, whether it's Dylan Cease, whether it's Corbin Burns. Pick your favorite starting pitcher. The Orioles have the pieces to make a deal. It's about whether ownership will give them the payroll room to do so. Again, I've written about this extensively. If you want to win a World Series, you almost always have to be in the top half of Major League Baseball in payroll. There's no way around it. It costs money to acquire both the stars and depth needed to win a World Series. We see that again. And if the Orioles aren't willing to up their payroll into that $150 million range, they're going to miss a golden opportunity to win a World Series. They have the homegrown talent to do so. And part of that is they are going to need to go sign some key pitchers in free agency, but also make these trades where they are going to have to increase their payroll a little bit to absorb these salaries. They absolutely have the talent. They have the talent to acquire both Dylan Cease and Corbin Burns if they wanted. They have that much talent in their minor league system. It's about ownership being willing to absorb the salaries of those pitchers, and we have yet to see evidence that they're willing to do so.
All right, I know you can't give me, the complete sneak peek, but let's break it here. Baseball America's almost top 5 organizations in their minor league system right now. I know it's not official. We'll say it right now. This is not official, but who is your top 5?
Yeah, I think you look at the Orioles, there's just so much talent in this system. The Brewers as well, you have Jackson Chourio, but you also have a lot of really, really good young players below them. Jacob Mizorowski, a 6'8" right-hander who throws 100. There's some relief risk there, but it's a big arm. He's the type of guy you certainly want in your system. I still think you look at the Dodgers. This is a system that doesn't have maybe that top-end talent of years past, like a Corey Seager, a Cody Bellinger, or Walker Buehler. But from a depth perspective, this is the deepest farm system in baseball. You go down to, their number 18 prospect would be the number 1 prospect in some other systems. That's how crazy deep it is. The Cubs have done a really nice job in their rebuild. Obviously, they traded everyone away at the 2021 trade deadline. They've done a good job with drafting and developing since then. They've made some good trades. They're an organization on the rise as well. Those are 4 for me that I would put in the top 5. In terms of a 5th, no one's jumping to mind right away. I would say for me personally, those would be my top 4, though.
Kyle, great stuff. Great to catch up with you. Always really, really insightful. And we'll see you again soon, all right?
Sounds good. Happy New Year, guys.
You too. Thank you. Kyle Glaser from Baseball America. As you mentioned, obviously, this is their time to shine. They'll have a lot coming out. What? Oh, he went past the deadline.
AJ, right? What do you got?
What do you mean?
He went past the Happy New Year deadline.
Oh, yeah.
That was a second offense.
You know what, though? It's funny is people said it to me today. People said it to me today, and I just didn't do that. I saw some people I haven't seen since New Year, and they're like, Happy New Year. And I'm just like, yeah, cool.
Oh, you really did that. You couldn't.
Yeah, because it's past. It went past it. It's been over a week. We're what? January 9th now. It's too. I mean, we could continue this until like spring training. Hey, Happy New Year, dude. No, it's over.
Hey, listen, I just thought it was hysterical. I was waiting for AJ to say something. He totally forgot. Just went like this.
Jim said it
because I told you I'm in ignore mode with Happy New Year.
I got 6 Happy New Years, I think. I had about 6 meetings yesterday after the show, and I think 2 of those meetings had a Happy New Year in them.
What'd you say?
I think I said, "Hope you had a great holiday." I was like, "Yeah, hope you had a great holiday." You know, I'm trying.
Hope you weren't too hungover.
You guys are in my head. By the way, Kyle Glaser's great. You can follow him at Kyle A. Glaser, Glaser, not a Z, SER. Okay, so keep that in mind. Thoughts though on Imanaga? Like, I mean, obviously for us, I haven't seen him in person. Okay, I've seen some video. You know, he pitched in the World Baseball Classic, but I think this is probably a big debate in front offices right now. Is what are we getting? Right? We hear one guest yesterday saying that he could be, I think, a 2 or a 3. You have a guest today who's talking to scouts who think that his floor is a reliever and his ceiling is a number 4 starter. So if we settle that, it's a 5. There's a big difference between paying for a 2-3 and a 5. I think there aren't maybe the same injury concerns or the walk issues that you have with Senga. So I think the ceiling sounds like it's a little bit lower. But there are also some teams that probably say if we can tweak that slider, we think that we can take him to another level. And if we do think that fastball ride's going to play really well in the bigs, this could be a 2 or a 3. So I'm leaning more towards a 3, which is high upside and makes him worth $100 million. Anyone else?
I'm going with Glaser.
You got a 5?
He had some good conviction there, bro. He was breaking down pitches and everything. That kind of, you know, he's one of those guys that, you know, sees most of those prospects. I know he's not from here, but still, I'm going to say 5, maybe 4.
Eno Cyrus, though, is the pitching guy. He's the spin rate pitching guy.
He's really good.
He's really good. And he was like talking about him like he's the next coming of Clayton Kershaw yesterday.
No.
I mean,
but yeah, he was high.
But he was high on him. I mean, he was talking about like, you know, high 2, you know, with this high spin rate fastball. And I was trying to like think of who, like, what was the guy, Chen for the Orioles, remember? Then he went to the Marlins, signed a big deal, never really panned out.
We got hurt a lot, Wei Chen.
Yeah, but that's kind of the guy that because he was like a high fastball guy as a lefty, which you don't see a lot. So I don't know. It's interesting to see how 2 guys that are both experts in their field, one has them way over here and the other guy's way over here.
I think that's what's happening in front offices. And Kratz, I'll add a little more research that I looked into the other day. So he wasn't as good this year as he was, or in 2023 as he was in 2022, talking about Imanaga in Japan. He was still great, but he was like elite in 2022. But if you look at his numbers from 2021 to 2023, right, the last 3 seasons, he is 38% above league average, right? So his ERA plus, 38% above league average, which makes him basically a number 2. You could even make a case, you know, number 1 starter really is those kind of numbers. I would say number 1. Those numbers that he put up in Japan are very similar to what we saw from Hiroki Kuroda and Hisashi Iwakuma before they left Japan to come over to Major League Baseball. Not talking about their pitch types, just talking about their performance.
What did George Steinbrenner call? Wasn't it? Or no, it was the other guy. Kuroda. I like Kuroda. No, the other guy. The guy that came over. The fat frog. What did he call him? Remember?
Hideki Arabu?
Arabu.
Oh, that's farther back.
I know. That was funny. He's like the fat. What did he call him? The fat toad?
Is that what he called him?
He called him something like that. Yeah, it was not a. It would not have flown today. That would not have been good comment.
Not PC.
Kuroda was a good pitcher though for years.
He was. Kuroda was very good for years. That's my point. If he's Kuroda, I mean, that's worth $100 million.
He said doubt. He brought up Marco Gonzalez to me, and I'm like, you know what? He was a good pitcher, but I don't know about $100 million.
No.
Marco's not dead. He's still pitching. He's on the Pirates.
No, I never said he was dead. I'm just saying.
You just said he was a good pitcher. Like he's dead. He passed. Like he was retired.
He's throwing for the Pirates now.
He is, but in the open market.
He's on the Pirates, so he might as well be dead at this point.
There you go.
He'll come back to life in July.
Exactly. When he gets traded.
When he gets traded.
He went from the Mariners to the Braves, and he's like, here we go. And then they're like, "Oh, by the way, we're just kidding. We're sending you the Pirates."
They called him right away too. You know that?
And said, "We're trading you again."
Anthopoulos called him right away and said, "Sit tight. We're trading you.
We're not keeping you."
Alex Anthopoulos called him and goes like, "Don't do anything crazy, like get a tattoo of like a brave on you somewhere." Because
I wish more.
Don't post anything on your social media. I think that's
Todd.
what it's about. Did you guys do that, Todd? Did you do that on your socials when you went to a new team? Like, hey, thanks for the time with blah blah blah. I'm excited to be a Met now or whatever. Because I feel like nowadays that warning from Anthopoulos partially has to do with the player not being like, can't wait, Braves fans.
I think I've done a couple of them, not all the teams. I don't think I did that, but yeah, I was saying before, I wish more GMs are like that. Hey, just so you know, we're looking to shop you, so be prepared in the next week or two. But that doesn't happen in life anymore or ever.
Right. No. There's not a lot of transparency.
Shōta, watching him, and I'm still using the same program that I used when I would scout pitchers when you were like thinking about hitting against them. I'm telling you guys, like you would watch some of these videos and you'd be like, I kind of want to get in there. So he could be a comfortable 0 for 3 guy that you're like, I just can't figure out why. I'm just afraid that doesn't always play because his let me see for sure here, but his second pitch that he throws as much, it's obviously his four-seam fastball, but then he throws his changeup. Now I'm losing it here. His changeup / slider almost the same amount.
Well, no, he's got a slider and a splitter, Kratz.
It's not. It doesn't register on the metrics as a splitter. I know Kyle was saying that, but I feel like we're splitting hairs. And watching it, it seems like a changeup with depth. So it could be, a loosely held splitter. To me, it just doesn't seem like he would be tough hitting. But I also know that Japan is a contact league, and he struck all these dudes out. So why is he striking all these dudes out? Gives me the little bit of, maybe. But I had him written down as a $52 million guy. And we're talking about over what Senga got. So.
Yeah, but Senga was a ripoff. I'm saying for him, he's worth way more than that. His upside was high. If people knew that he was going to be good and be a starter, right? I mean, obviously that was the risk you were dealing with last year. They were like, there's some injury risk and there are walk issues, right? If you knew what you knew now, right, that Senga looked like this past season, let's say Senga hit the free agent market right now. What does he get? He's a free agent right now. He had the one season in New York with the Mets.
Yeah, he gets a couple $100 million.
He gets $200 million.
Yeah,
Mets got a freaking steal.
He's also 30 years old. So I don't think he's getting – and he's all, like you're talking completely different. Senga touched 99 this year. 99 miles an hour. Shōta, I didn't see a pitch over 93. He said 94, 95 at some times. From 2023, I watched 2 whole games, and I didn't see a single pitch over 93.
Yeah, but Kratz, I'm saying 200 for Senga, 100 for Imanaga.
Okay. So you're paying Imanaga more than you are the number 3 Cy Young Award winner in Sonny Gray?
Well, Sonny Gray is what, 35?
Okay.
It's very different. You know what? I'm saving all my money for Whit Merrifield.
Oh,
that's
you're
big.
Gonna need a lot. You're gonna need a lot.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I need to borrow some money from my friends. Let's bring in Whit right now on FT Live. Whit, how you doing? How you hanging during free agent time period? Does that at least make you feel better that more than half the league of free agents hasn't signed yet?
I mean, it's been slow from across the board. So, that's part of it, I guess. But yeah, no, everything's good. If I lose you guys, I'll call you back. We've got some biblical rains going on in North Carolina right now. So
it's coming here.
It's
supposed to be here about 5 o'clock.
I hadn't seen anything quite like this. It's gnarly.
We're getting that, frogs? We're getting that tonight, man.
Not frogs. No, not yet. It's too cold for that. It'd be all over the place, though, if it was warm.
Wow.
All right. Well, if we lose you, no worries.
We got to look forward to.
Why do you think there's a stalemate in general with free agency this year? I mean, obviously some teams are scaling back payroll because of TV concerns. There are still, a bunch of players at the top of the market, repped by Boris, that all seem to be kind of on a holding pattern, but I think it'll play out soon. But about a month ago, everyone was like, oh, Ohtani's holding up the market. He wasn't holding up the market.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm not. I'm not privy to the other side of the conversation as to when teams are just kind of sitting on their thumbs. So I don't know. I don't know what's holding up teams from going out and signing a bunch of guys, but I wish I had an answer for you.
Now, as you're sitting there, I remember when I went through free agency, I'm like, this is the best. I couldn't wait to get there. And I'm like, damn, I haven't signed with anybody. I thought I'd, get thousands of offers, my first year in free agency, and then nothing really, nothing explosive came. So it's like one of those things where, I mean, you've been playing for a long time now, so you understand the ins and out of baseball, man. Do you hear the rumors? Are you a big rumor guy, or you just let things go, man?
Well, now you can't help hearing the rumors just because even if you're not looking for it, you got other people asking you, oh, so I saw on, I guess the latest thing, I got about 4 texts between last night and today saying I saw on ESPN that you're going to the Astros. So it's just like you just can't avoid it at this, as a player with friends. You just can't avoid it, especially friends that don't necessarily understand the game from a business standpoint. That they see something online and they just assume that's what's happening. So, but yeah, I mean, it's at this point with me, it's trying to figure out what's going to be my best situation. Where do I want to be? What's going to be important to me, in my career. And so those are decisions that I'm thinking about and discussing with family and my agent, and just trying to come to the best decision.
All right, so you can break it here. You're signing with the Astros. What's the deal? How much? How many years? And just let us know. We won't tell anybody.
Why Astros?
That's because that's what he said. He just said ESPN
that was his
he
words.
signed with the Astros.
Yeah, I mean, it's look. I firmly believe that I've still got a few years left in being an everyday high level player. I mean, I was an all-star last year. I know I had a tough 2 months at the end of the year, but I've still got that in me, and I know I do, and it's just a matter of finding the right team that believes I still got that, and when that situation is ready to happen, it'll happen, and you guys will be the first to know.
Oh, nice. We appreciate that, and we're going to hold you to that, Whit, okay? That we are going to be the first to know. Do you have to sell teams on yourself? Like the teams that you've talked to, do you have to sell them? Are you sitting there saying exactly what you said? Because they have everything out in front, and they have, your numbers, they have what other guys have gotten paid, or do you just go in, your agent go in and say, hey, what do you guys want? And then you kind of banter back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, so at the start of the free agency cycle, my agent put together this pamphlet of numbers and things that I do well and things that I've done well, reasons that I'm turning 35 in a little over 2 weeks, and reasons that just because I'm 35 doesn't mean my 35 looks like your 35 or his 35. Just, things along like that. And like comps, this guy got this amount of money that at this age coming off this season versus me and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, we've got a big thing, but, with all the numbers that are available now, teams are going to find those numbers that make you look like a lesser player, so they can try to pay you less. And we're showing numbers that I think better reflect the kind of player that I am. And it's just a kind of a back and forth.
Okay, so are you selling yourself as a everyday second baseman, or as a utility player, or what's your main position you want to be sold at? Because you said you still have everyday years left. So is that at second base? Is that in the outfield, or is that as like a Ben Zobrist super utility kind of guy?
So this gets kind of the way I don't know if I don't articulate this very well or not, but I think this kind of gets skewed. Like I only want to play second base, which isn't necessarily the case. I just feel like when I play second base every single day, I feel like it puts me in the best position to be the best player that I can be. Now, that might not necessarily be what the team needs, and the team, it might benefit the team for me to play second against right-handers and right field, left field, center field against left-handers. But I know that when I've gotten to play second base every day, I mean, I've got a fielder Bible award, and then I've only got to do it 2 years. First year, I pretty much led baseball or at least the American League in defensive metrics at second base. And then I think that was 21. And then in 2017, same thing. I had to play second every day, and my defensive metrics were extremely high. When I bounce around, they're not as well represented, because naturally, when you're not playing every day at one spot, you're not gonna be as sharp as if you're there every day. So that's where like my verbiage comes in. That when I play there second base every day, defensively, it creates a higher value, and so everyone likes to look at WAR. So my WAR is better because I'm have better defensive numbers. The defensive numbers they can be misleading, because defense is about opportunities. And if say I play second base for 200 innings and get like 2 chances to my right that are going to be great plays, and I make one of them, and someone else gets 200 chances and gets 8 plays, they're going to be great plays to his right, and makes 5 of them, he's a better statistically defender and has a bigger range than this guy. So defense is about opportunities, and that only reflects itself when you're there, like on a consistent basis. And so it's a weird thing for myself, because there is value in what I do and being able to bounce around, and I do understand that, and I know I'm pretty good at it. So I like doing that. I've done it my whole life, but I think if you're going to get the most value out of me, in my opinion, I'm playing second base every day.
Okay, there's a great team. I know we already put you with the Astros, but the White Sox, they need a second baseman. They signed all the ex-Royals, so congratulations, you're now White Sox.
I just saw they just got Jin Wong, my guy over from Kansas City.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
They got everyone from Kansas City. Every guy they signed has to
they're
either
missing
be
someone. He's on
I
the
know, that's
stream.
what I'm saying. Either got to play for Kansas City, work for Kansas City, or have at least put blue on once in their life. They'll sign you.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I got a lot of great friends over there.
Do the teams that you're talking to agree with what you're saying? Because I kind of asked you before, like, do you have to sell yourself? Do they agree with it? Because I'm always wondering, like, I never went through it. The other 2 dudes besides Scott went through this. Minor league free agency is way different than this. So, but do they agree?
Until it comes to numbers, yeah, they agree. I mean, until it comes to dollar figures,
Exactly.
And it's like, oh well, this is where you were defensively last year, and at left field and right field, and your second base numbers were down from the year before, and so then it's like, oh well, then they can, like, because of my age, everything goes back to regression because of your age. The numbers that attribute to my physical wellness, as far as sprint speed, as far as these plyometric jumps that we do every year, that I was the highest last year that I've been in my career. None of that gets taken into consideration if my average exit velocity is down 0.2 points, it's because I'm getting older and I'm regressing. Doesn't matter at all that I'm 3% stronger this year than I was last year. I'm regressing because I'm older. That's kind of how the conversations usually go.
Is it kind of unfair? You're going through free agency the same time that players who have never, and I get it, it's pitchers and incredibly handsome elite defensive second baseman, but is it unfair that you're at the free agency and you're going through and hearing these words when guys are going through free agency getting hundreds of millions of dollars that have never played in the big leagues?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if fair is the right word. It might be the right word, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't like saying that somebody getting an opportunity and getting a bunch of money is not fair. That he got this opportunity and this guy didn't. But it's different. Is that better? Is that a better way to say it?
It's much better.
I'm totally with you, Whit, on the age portion of things. I do not think everyone's age is equal, right? And it has to do with two things. One, how you maintain your body, which is what you're talking about, but two, genetics. There's also just some people that age differently and more quickly and kind of lose it, right? So if we're going off the same curve, it's just wrong. I mean, this isn't the best example, but it's probably not the worst example. In my last job, they had this option where you could do this like real age ID kind of test, and it could help you to get like some insurance perks. And I did it. And I was like 26 or 7 instead of like 35. And I was like, let's go. So I just feel like they need to look at other things. Well, hey, listen, I mean, I'm in my mid 30s and I have some friends once they hit 21 or 2 where I felt like I'm in much better shape than they were now. And I'm sure Whit feels the same way. Right? You're 34 and you're probably looking at some dudes that enter the league and you're like, I could run freaking sprints around these guys in basically every fitness test. So that's not really what I am. It's just a number.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a way for teams to devalue you. And that's at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you at the best bargain that they can get you at. And, to me, it's just a lazy way to go about judging a player just by looking at raw numbers and saying because he's getting older, these certain numbers aren't the same as they were this year. When if you really look at it, it's probably there's probably a lot more going on than age. And I think that to think that somebody just because they're 2 years older can't be better than they were 2 years prior is pretty ignorant.
So let me relate this to a teammate, okay? So I'll take it off you for a sec, Wait, and I'll take you to former teammate, at least for now, Matt Chapman, unless you guys end up on the same spot, right? So you just played with Matt. He's 30 years old. For example, I think he'd be a great fit with the San Francisco Giants. I know that's a team that's obsessed with age curve stuff, and they're probably looking going, oh, well, we brought in Longo and made that big trade years back, and he was okay for them, right? He had his ups and downs with the team, and they're like, well, this would be signing a guy who's only 1 year off of that. So what do you think of the way someone like that is evaluated as well, as you just played with him for the past couple of years, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, you just look at the way he moves. You look at the way he runs, the way he moves laterally. The guy is an elite athlete. He's a lot faster than people think he is. He's dynamic. He's quick twitched. He's not only is he quick twitched, but he also twitches in other ways. He's got a little Tourette's to him, which we like to give him a hard time for. He says some stuff, and we're like, dude, like, just you literally have Tourette's. Just blame it on that. But anyway, Chappie is just he's a dynamic player who's obsessed with the game, who's obsessed with getting better. And if anybody uses the fact that he's 30 years old against him, I mean, it's lazy analyzation, if that's the right word, of a player, because There's so much more that goes into who he is and how he's going to be as a player than simply his age.
Do you feel like your old contracts, the contracts you've already signed, the extensions, have kind of come into play with some of the negotiation in the sense that, like, oh, we know he took a, quote, team-friendly deal. We can do that too. Do you feel like they are kind of pigeonholing you that way, or is that not something that is in their minds, or feel like that's in their minds?
No, I mean, I don't think that hasn't come up, but I really don't think that was a team that big of a team friendly deal because I signed it so early in my arbitration process. It was 4 for 16 with some incentives with an $11 million club option. The 4 through 16 got me through year 3 of ARB. And if you look at the way they pay arbitration players, best case scenario, I would have got like 369. So
right.
That's 18. And then with the incentives, I got to 17 and a half, I think. And then they picked up my club option, which coming off of a bad year, just pretty much got me a 1 year, $11 million deal. So I really think it was a good deal for both sides. And, I like to stick up when people say stuff like that because I think my agent did a good job and he kind of catches some slack when people say that. And so I like to try to stick up for him.
I like that. Hey, Whit, right now you've got some people that aren't Dodgers fans that are pissed that they're not Dodgers fans, or they're like, we need a salary cap. Meanwhile, the Dodgers were chilling last offseason. They didn't spend a lot. They were waiting to be able to pounce this offseason. What do you think of what they've done? And when some fans are calling for a salary cap and they're like, oh, the Dodgers are just going to win the World Series. Like, in my mind, you're clearly not paying attention to how baseball and the playoff system works. But from the players' perspective on what they're doing, I mean, also, I think probably the strongest line from a player and from the players union is no on a salary cap. And if anything, we need a floor because there's some teams that are just chilling.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to fault any team that's going out and doing the best they can to make their team World Series contender. So, I mean, props to them for getting creative and doing things that have been not done at the level that they're doing it, as far as like the deferrals and all that stuff. It takes stuff like that. Stuff like that's innovative, and until something like that happens, you don't think about correcting it or adjusting it. So whether that happens in the future, the next CBA, whether or not they like put together some sort of rule that says you can't defer X amount of dollars, I mean, kudos to them for being innovative and going out and getting guys that they think are going to make their team better and spending money to do it. So, I wish there was 29 other teams that kind of followed that. I know people say that money's different, but it's not that different.
I agree. It's not that different. I know too much. That's why
it's different, but it's not that different.
No, it's not that different. Yeah, we go over it almost every day with some fans. I want to take you in a little bit of a different direction. It's more of like a sports media question for you. So Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers are in the news a lot lately. Not asking you specifically for a breakdown of, Rodgers' comments. I'm sure you've seen some of them and some of the back and forth that he's had, like with Jimmy Kimmel and all that. I'm just looking in baseball for any players in your mind that could be like an Aaron Rodgers type. And do you think, despite the comments, that the attention that he brings to the NFL and keeps them kind of in the sphere of conversation, do you think that's really positive for the game? And I guess you can make a case also for someone like Travis Kelce too, right? Like he's everywhere. He's outspoken. I mean, you want to go NBA, LeBron. Like, do you think that our sport has that? And if so, who are some players that come to mind that you perk up to listen to when you see them in an interview?
I mean, there are some players that come to mind. I don't know if they would, since they're not really like that way in front of the media. I don't know if they would like me to say their names, but I know some people that are, I know players that are interesting individuals. I mean, this guy would never be in the same sort of sphere as Aaron Rodgers and the outspokenness and the firm stances on what he believes in. But I mean, anytime Zach Greinke's around a microphone, I have to listen to what he's saying. So he's he's a unique human being and one of my favorite teammates I've ever played with. But I've met other guys. I mean, I've had teammates that are flat earthers that are just incredible to listen to. Guys that are, have conspiracies about a lot of different things that are just fun, interesting conversations, and then guys that are super, super intelligent and smart and have a belief system that they have a high value with, and in the locker room, it's a much different conversation than when a camera's in front of them. So, we're taught from a young age to be vanilla, to just kind of not take the distraction off of the common goal every day, and that which is winning and getting to the playoffs and winning a world championship. So, baseball's still a little bit in that atmosphere, I guess, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. But I know in the world of media, and especially in the world of social media, clicks are important, and I've dealt with that firsthand.
Who is a guy that you don't know? You know a lot of guys being a two-time All-Star, three-time All-Star. Is there a guy that you're like, that guy is intriguing? I don't know anything about him. If he was on FT, I would tune in every day at 1:45 to see what he has to say when I'm on the way to the park. Like somebody you don't know. That way you're not throwing him under the bus. Somebody that you do know would be awesome.
Some fans are saying Votto, although I don't know if he's playing again next year. No?
I mean,
Votto's one. Votto's a great one. He's gonna be a great TV guy one day. I don't know Votto personally, but I like it when he's got an interview. I like to tune in for that one. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody in particular. So, yeah.
Well, we need to do some work on that then. That's a problem. Right?
Yeah.
That's the point, right?
Yeah, we need to find some guys. I thought Sale was pretty standout yesterday. When we got him going. So, all right, then that's our job. That's on us. We'll work on that. We got to find who else is out there that really stands out and can kind of I guess translate over to even other fans of other sports and be like, oh shit.
You got to get someone that's not afraid to say something, which is what.
Like you said, you're taught to be vanilla.
You are. I mean,
in
NBA, you have Draymond Green, right?
Oh yeah.
Who'll say anything, then get suspended for repeatedly punching dudes and choking dudes.
Well, that's different.
No, but then he says whatever he wants, and then he comes out and says the commissioner talked him out of retiring.
Yeah.
Dude, you ain't retiring. You got $100 million left in your contract.
Exactly.
You ain't retiring. Come on. Let's be serious here.
He was saying that. I don't know why you would say that.
He was saying it. You know why he was saying it? He was saying it to get more clicks.
Whatever. Then he's smart.
That's what I know, but nobody in baseball do that.
No.
Because like Whit said, everyone's too vanilla. You're taught from a young age, just be the same, be everyone A to B and be in line. And don't.
There's also a stigma that comes with a guy that's doing that and that's going out and trying to do things to get clicks, whether he's putting everyday workouts on Instagram and showing you how hard he's working, or doing, saying you're just doing stuff that's kind of it seems forced and outlandish to generate attention on social media. That comes with a stigma in the locker room, and it comes with not a reputation that most guys want. So there's also got to be that level of authenticity that comes with it if you're doing it, and that's hard to find.
Yep. Some fans saying Pete. They want some Pete Alonso. He stood out for a few comments this year with us. So, all right, we'll work on that. That's our homework. Whit, we'll talk to you soon for the breaking news signing announcement. All right?
All right. I'll have to remember that.
Yes, call us right after you sign, please.
We're your first
All right.
All right. Talk to you soon, dude.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Cheers. Whit Merrifield with us.
By the way, Draymond Green's in the first year of a 4-year, $100 million.
First year.
So he's gonna leave $75 million, let's say, on the table and retire. Dude, come on, bro. That was all bullshit. He ain't retiring.
Bull sugar.
Yeah, but that's like talking to a friend, being like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
And the friend's like, no, dude.
No, it's okay.
You're great. You
It's
can't
okay,
do
Scott.
that yet.
You can quit.
Okay, I won't then. Thank you.
It's like when you get in a fight. Hold me back. Everyone, look at all these people. Hold me back. In baseball fights.
In fairness, though, I will give credit on this front. Adam Silver is what many players call a player's commissioner, and he's at least on the phone saying that. I think you could make the case that maybe if it was our sport, they'd be like, $75 million saved on the contract. All right, no big deal. That's how our sport thinks, is it not?
True.
I think so.
Scott, you didn't wish him Happy New Year.
I don't do that anymore.
Cheers. No, he didn't give the cheers either. He's done with that.
What? I did do the cheers, didn't I? I should have said stay safe.
Cheers.
It's about to freaking.
Bro, if that's coming down to you, what's coming up to us tonight, man? They said some crazy rain, man.
We got 5 o'clock, man. It's supposed to blow 50 to 60 here.
So it's going this way because
I don't know. It's just one big line of crap coming all the way across.
It's supposed to be all through the wee hours of the night.
Did it already hit Kratz's house? The Amish don't believe in
We're getting
that.
some rain now, but
yeah, it's raining now.
That's what we
Doesn't affect the Amish. They just build stronger houses.
Nah, they just farming world out there. They're like,
We
whatever,
need this
no big
water.
deal. Help the crops.
Ken
Rosenthal
The crops
coming
in January that are growing?
Yeah,
corn.
they're growing snow. Ken Rosenthal is about to join us, so I'll just call this out for everyone that's active. The YouTube chat's pretty active today, so if you have a question for Ken, I'll try and pick one or two and mix them in. Oh, look at that. I like that little graphic on the bottom there too. FT merch is available at foulterritoryshop.com, but I already see some questions coming in for Ken. So while Ken's talking, I will try and listen to him and look at some of those questions to mix in. We have a lot to get to with Ken, so let's bring him in right now. Ken Rosenthal joining us. Ken, great to see you. I'm not allowed to say Happy New Year anymore. Do you agree with that? What's your, whatever you call it, moratorium or deadline for Happy New Year?
I don't have a moratorium, Scott. You can say Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all you guys. I don't know which ones are grumpy about saying that, but, I imagine.
I'll give you one guess.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you in like July, and I'll be like, hey, Ken, Happy New Year.
You can say it whenever you want, AJ. I'll be good.
Ken, let's start with, you've written a lot over the past week. I want to go to what you wrote about Josh Hader and his comparison to Edwin Diaz. I'm sure that's a contract that he's looking at this offseason, and there's deferrals mixed in that I didn't even realize or remember from Edwin Diaz. So what do you think about his market and what the money could look like?
You know what, Scott? I didn't remember that the Diaz deal had deferrals either. And basically, it's $26.5 million of the $102 million that is deferred, lowers the present day value to something like $93 million. So the point I was making when I wrote about that was that really Josh Hader doesn't have to beat $102 million to say I'm the biggest reliever contract in history. He can beat 93 and say present day value, I got it. Now, I imagine that still is what he's looking at, whether it's 93, whether it's 102. If you're Josh Hader, you can certainly make a case that you have been a better reliever than Edwin Diaz, and you're competing in an open market for a contract, whereas Diaz, it was right before free agency, so he was still only talking with the Mets. Now, remember, Diaz was coming off an amazing year, second all-time strikeouts per nine in that 2021 season. He had the trumpets blaring, he had a captive owner, and it just seemed like the time was right for him. And GMs will tell you from time to time that just because one reliever or one pitcher or one player signs what they determine to be an outlier contract, it doesn't mean that that should be the comp for others. And that's probably the rationale that Hader is hearing. But if he's Josh Hader, he's thinking, hey, I'm the best, man, and I need the best contract. And that probably is why he is not signed right now. Obviously, that's why he's not signed. That is why all of the players who are unsigned are still out there. They've not gotten the deals that they want.
Now, let me ask you this on the Hader front. Do you know of teams that are waiting in the wings to sign him but Are they kind of reel him back because of the money, or do they think he doesn't deserve that? Like, what do you think is going on with all that rationale right there? Because he is a superior reliever, and he's been doing it for a lot of years now, and a lefty who throws really hard, has some unhittable pitches. But what is the case right now? Because we're getting closer and closer to spring training. There's a lot of free agents that haven't signed, especially a guy like Josh Hader, who any team can use right now.
Todd, generally speaking, it's always a financial question, right? The teams interested do not want to pay what Josh Hader wants. If there was a team interested that wanted to pay what Josh Hader wants, Josh Hader would be signed by now. So that is the overall view. Now, if you want to ask me which teams are in on this, I actually am not sure, because there has not been a lot of information coming out about Hader. Certainly there are teams you can look at and match with him. Texas might be one of them, for instance. And yet Texas is caught up in this regional sports network situation where they're not quite clear on what they have to spend yet. And if they do get, let's say, the approval from ownership to spend on one big player, which I imagine it would be one, not multiples, it probably would be Jordan Montgomery. That's one example. I am sure there are other teams waiting and seeing if Josh Hader will fall to a price that is more comfortable for them, a distressed price, so to speak. Now, I don't know why Josh Hader would fall and be a distressed asset in any stretch of the imagination. He's coming off a really good year. I know his walk rate was up a little bit, but he's still Josh Hader. But I'm sure there are teams that are doing the equivalent of bottom feeding and trying to think that maybe Josh Hader will fall to them. We'll see if that happens. I don't expect it to.
Of the main guys left, your Cody Bellinger, your Snell, your Hader, Montgomery, who has the most suitors in the sense of, like, if Hader only has 3 teams and Chapman has 5 teams, who would you say, in your opinion, has the most suitors going after them currently?
Eric, that's a great question, and it would only be a guess on my part, but I would guess it's Montgomery. And the reason I say that is because Snell, at the top of the market, the 2-time Cy Young winner, is a guy that has the high walk rate, has the lack of innings, kind of has these questions around him. Is he the guy we saw in 18 and 23, or is he the guy we saw from 19 to 22? He's a really good pitcher. We all know that, and he is capable of fronting a rotation. But Montgomery, teams would imagine or know, is not going to cost as much as Snell. He is quite accomplished in his own right, though not at Blake Snell's level, and he's coming off a great postseason. So I would think that maybe he has the most of that group. Bellinger and Chapman, as I said on Fair Territory this week, along with Snell, all of those guys have questions surrounding them. And they're all good players. Don't get me wrong. They're all guys who are going to get well paid and should get well paid in an open market setting. But it's not like Shohei Ohtani, right, who had some questions too, but is this transcendent talent. These guys are players with some warts, and that is probably what is holding them back. Montgomery, it seems to me, of the Boris Big Four remaining, has the fewest warts in a sense. It might be the fewest or the lowest upside too, but it would be my guess that he's the one getting the most interest from in terms of a multiple team kind of situation.
Ken, I'll mix in a fan question here, and there's just a lot of chatter in general right now, and I think some of this plays off the Dodgers pulling off the biggest signing of the week again in Teoscar Hernandez. So Joe says, hey, Ken, what do you think? Should there be a salary cap in the future, and why? And there's a lot of chatter. I'll just give one example. Cliff goes, is there a profit cap for MLB? Then no salary cap for players. It's been a big topic all offseason long. People thinking that the Dodgers are on another planet who forget that they didn't do anything last offseason. But what's been your response when you see this? And I'm sure there's been tons of comments in the Athletic bottom section there after the articles.
Oh, I've gotten tons of comments, yes. And after I wrote following the Ohtani signing that this was good for baseball, that the Dodgers are one of the premier franchises, and for them to have Ohtani actually is a good thing, and it doesn't necessarily disrupt parity because we have an expanded playoff system, and we have a team, the Dodgers, that for all of their might over the last 10 or so years has only won one World Series and in a COVID-shortened campaign. That said, fans reacted to that rather negatively, and a lot of fans think this is a sport that has lost its way. It's a sport that is too imbalanced. And I would just suggest looking at the World Series results from the past, 20 years. And you would see that there haven't been many repeat winners, if at all, right? We haven't had a repeat champion since the 1998 to 2000 Yankees. So, yes, it is easier for teams that spend money to get to the playoffs. It probably is easier for them to sustain success. And low revenue executives would tell you, executives from low revenue teams, that the model is broken, that they can't keep up, and that the disparity is only getting wider. I don't know that a cap is the answer to that. In fact, I would say that the cap is not an answer to that because, one, the union is never going to go for it. This is the one union that has not caved on a salary cap among the professional sports leagues unions. And the other thing I would say is that baseball can do things structurally to enhance competitive balance beyond where it is now, beyond the things that are in place now, beyond revenue sharing, beyond draft pick compensation. You can get the low revenue teams more draft picks. You can do other things that would help them without needing a cap. And I would also say, if you look at the other sports, everybody says, oh, the NFL is great because it has a cap. The NFL's parity is not so great. Now, granted, Pat Mahomes can stay in Kansas City. Josh Allen can stay in Buffalo, and that's a great thing. And that in baseball doesn't really happen long term. But to say that there's more parity in that sport than there is in baseball, I would suggest that is not the case, and you can look it up.
Ken, 2 weeks from now, I think the 23rd, right, is when the Hall of Fame is announced. Is that correct? So you got 2 weeks, and you just released your ballot recently, and you voted for 10 guys. Can we show your ballot on there?
You can show it, but it was 9, AJ, not 10.
9, sorry. I couldn't see my toes.
There it is. And also on Fair Territory, you can hear more. But what do you got?
We can't see it because of the scroll. I just wanted to talk about Ken's signature on the bottom down there.
That's what you wanted?
Yeah, I don't care about who he voted for, but his signature is unbelievable. It's like a fourth grader signature.
AJ,
and then
inaccurate.
You know what the problem is, Ken? You've written in shorthand your whole life. So then when it comes to actually write your name in print, you're still writing it in shorthand.
Well, my handwriting is a subject of great humor in my household, and at least one of my 3 children, one who will remain nameless, has equally bad handwriting, and we can't figure out how that happened. Probably hereditary. Not something I'm proud of, but yes, if you looked at my Hall of Fame ballot, AJ actually wasn't the only one to comment on this. I got a text message from a fellow writer who said, yeah, my handwriting is elementary school level as well. So this is why I type for a living, not write handwritten notes.
Oh,
I like that. Let's normalize bad handwriting,
dude. But if he's
I
shorthand,
don't know that we need to normalize it, Scott.
When you work with Ken, he shorthands in his little. He carries his notebook around.
Yeah,
and it's like I'm like, dude, you're drawing doodles in that thing. What is that? And he's like, no, I can read. I'm like, what? That doesn't even make sense.
It's his own language. No one else can
true.
steal the notebook and see what he says in there.
It's like the Enigma in World War II.
All right. Well, then, I mean, we might as well, while we're there, you posted that. You spoke about it on Fair Territory. My question is, where have you received the most positive or negative feedback on what you put out there? And I guess I'll just add to this, too. We had Gary Sheffield on for a long time the other day, and he was really laying out what went on during his time period of the PED accusations. So I don't know if you saw any of that or if that helped influence you, not just that, but what you've seen in the past from what he said.
Scott, you're assuming I've been looking at the feedback, and kind of with the Hall of Fame, I try to stay away from it, but I have voted for Chef pretty consistently over the last several years, so nothing he said had anything to do with that. Although I did enjoy his interview with you guys, I vote for him because he had 509 home runs, because the PED accusation is flimsy, because we have other PED users in the Hall of Fame. And while he was not a great defender by any stretch of the imagination, the bat waggle, the home runs, the fear he inspired in other pitchers, that is what does it for me. He is a Hall of Famer for those reasons. I would imagine on my ballot, the most feedback or the most people upset would be with Rollins and Utley, and Rollins in particular. And I explained in the column that I wrote about my ballot why I voted for those two. And it kind of goes back to Trammell and Whitaker, who are 2 guys that had very similar careers for the Detroit Tigers as middle infielders. One of them didn't get in on the writer's ballot for 15 years and then got in on the Veterans Committee. And the other dropped off the writer's ballot the first year he was eligible. That's Lou Whitaker. And I always felt it was wrong, or I felt since Trammell's election, that it's wrong that Trammell's in and Whitaker's not. So I look at Utley and Rollins, and they're quite different candidates. And also, they are not as similar statistically as Trammell and Whitaker were. And you can make the case that Rollins' career OPS plus, it's 5% below league average, not good enough. But the way I see him, he's the all-time Phillies hits leader. He's a guy who was part of really good teams for 5 or 6 years, a team that went to the World Series twice, won it once. Kind of the perfect complement to Chase Utley. He's a guy with counting numbers. Chase Utley is a different kind of Hall of Fame candidate. He is a guy with a great short peak. Chase Utley, to me, is almost a quintessential Hall of Famer, not simply because of the numbers, and I know he has fewer than 2,000 hits, but because of the cultures he helped create where he went. Philadelphia and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Those players who were with those teams, the executives, the coaches, the managers, they revered Utley, and they revered him because of the impact he made, not just with his performance, but behind the scenes, off the field. And I just felt ultimately, if I was going to vote for Utley, and Rollins, while borderline, was certainly a guy you would not say would lower the Hall, then I wanted to vote for both. And that's why I did it. Now, I understand that people will disagree with both of those choices, if not one. And I understand why. The Hall of Fame is a very personal decision when you make that vote, that choice. And each of us, men and women who vote, have different approaches to it. It's kind of the beauty of it. And it's a large enough voting body, 400 plus, that we generally, but not always, generally get it right. So that's my logic, that's my explanation. And one other thing I should mention also, unrelated to that, people ask all the time, well, if you voted for Bonds and Clemens, which I did, how come you do not vote for A-Rod and Manny? A-Rod and Manny were players who were suspended after the penalties were in place, after the rules were established, and in my mind, that disqualifies them, at least for now. I revisit this every year, and there's always a possibility I change my mind, but it's really difficult for me to vote for those guys when they knew the rules, they knew the penalties, and they still did it.
I love that part about Jimmy and Chase, like just teammates that just came to play every single day. I think you nailed it on the head there. But if you had your 9 picks and they said, Ken, you only get one because these 9 are not all going to make it, who is the one that you're like, I really hope this is the year that he makes it? I would wash all my other picks off for this one guy.
Well, it's Sheffield's last year, so that would maybe influence me. But to me, the most obvious Hall of Famer on this list is Beltre. The hit total, the home run total, the gold gloves at third base, the character and the leadership he brought to his teams. He is a guy that if I had to vote for one player this year, that would be the one I would vote for.
And I would agree with you on that 100%. Changing gears here, fan question from Robert in the chat. Why are they stalling the trade Cease instead of getting multiple position prospects from Baltimore?
I don't believe they're stalling. I believe they're waiting for the best possible deal. And Baltimore is certainly a team with the prospects to get this done, with the ability to satisfy the White Sox. But what the White Sox see is a market that is starved for starting pitching and has only a number of quality pitchers still available. I'm talking about Imanaga, who is going to make his decision within 2 days because his deadline is Thursday. Snell and Montgomery, Marcus Stroman, if you want to throw him in. But there are more teams with more starting spots available than exist in the market. There's greater demand than there is supply. That's what I'm trying to say here. So when you have that situation, you're the White Sox, you're thinking, as they've thought from the beginning, that toward the end, after these guys go off the board, there are going to be teams on tilt, teams that are in near desperate positions. And at that point, maybe they can extract the best deal for Dylan Cease, a better deal than they can extract right now. Do I believe that the White Sox are going to hold him until the deadline? No, it's too risky. He can get hurt. He cannot pitch well. he can diminish his value some way. But you look at the market, again, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Giants, the Orioles, the Cubs all need starting pitching. And I can name other clubs as well. But those are 5 pretty prominent teams that are all in need. I would throw the Rangers in there. And again, if I sat here and really thought about it, I can keep going. I've just named more teams than there are starting pitchers available. And some of those teams, frankly, would benefit from the additions of 2 starting pitchers. So that is the White Sox mindset, in my opinion. And we'll see if it bears the fruit that they want. But I expect they're going to do quite well for Dylan Cease.
Ken, a little more somber topic here. Wander Franco with the Rays. We've kind of hit on it a little bit. You wrote an article about why it might be difficult for him to get back in the U.S. if you haven't read it, about because of the immigration laws and visa laws and what he has been accused of. Not saying he did it, is frowned upon most of the time when you start crossing borders. We had Jim, I'm not going to say Bowden, Jim Bowden on yesterday, and he said Trevor Bauer will never pitch again in the major leagues. Do you think that Wander Franco, and this is just your opinion from what you've read and what you learned, that I'm not going to say ever again, but in 2024, because the Rays have lost Glass now, they got rid of Rayleigh, they got rid of Kittredge, they're making moves to kind of shed payroll, but will Wander Franco play in 2024, and will he ever play again? And does this give the Rays a chance to void that contract and get their money back?
All right, there's a lot there, AJ, obviously. And to answer your first question, I don't believe he will play in 2024, and I'll tell you why. Major League Baseball has a joint domestic violence policy, and it covers this kind of thing, sexual abuse of a minor, as well as a number of other offenses. Even if Franco is found not guilty in the Dominican Republic, even if he is not charged, Major League Baseball has the right under this joint domestic violence agreement to suspend him. We saw that with Bauer. Bauer was never charged with anything, never convicted of anything, but he was suspended, it turned out, for 190 plus games. So even if Franco gets through the legal part of this unscathed, which I can't predict will happen one way or the other, by the time that is done, who knows when that will be? We probably are months away from resolution. At that point, then Major League Baseball gets involved more, conducts its investigation, because they really can't get going until the legal stuff is cleared. And then Major League Baseball will decide whether to suspend him or not. Now, maybe it's April by that time, maybe it's May, June, July, I don't know. Maybe it's March. But I expect that he'll get a suspension of some kind, and I expect that ultimately 2024 is going to be in jeopardy. Now, the rest of the contract. As I wrote, if he is convicted of this kind of crime, sexual abuse of a minor, under immigration law, I talked to 2 immigration attorneys, that would constitute a felony of the kind that you can bar a player for. Actually, it would bar him automatically from the country. When you're convicted of that kind of crime, that is it. You're out. So he would not come back. He would not be able to come back. And at that point, the Rays would not need to void the contract. He would not be able to execute the contract, and they would not need to pay it. Now, if he is cleared, or even if he somehow pleads to a lesser charge, if he is able to come back, right, then the question of the contract becomes more interesting. And we've seen over the years, from Lamar Hoyt to Denny Nagel to Francisco Rodriguez, teams have tried to recoup guaranteed money from players who got arrested and did not succeed. Ultimately, there was either a settlement or they paid in full. There is not much precedent for voiding contracts. But at the same time, if Franco is suspended, if he doesn't play much in 2024, the Rays save that much. And the question then becomes, what happens to the rest? And I don't know the answer to that. We're not there yet. We're not even close to that point yet where that becomes an actual conversation.
And Ken, I mean, as you wrote in the story, if he did not come back, right, that's when the money gets forfeited. It would be $174 million of the 11 years, 182 guaranteed that he signed in November of 2021. I think sometimes people don't realize that when these contracts are signed by players like him, where I believe he was maybe a year-ish, if that, into his big league career, most of that money gets paid later on in the contract. Right. So for the Rays, if this plays out that way, most of the contract it would be gone.
That's right. And again, if he is convicted of what is known as an aggregated felony in immigration law, then he's not coming back to the United States, and then the contract is not getting paid out, period. But we'll have to see if that happens. And yes, as you said, Scott, the way these contracts are structured, for fans who might not know, when you sign a guy with basically no major league service, like Franco at the time he signed his deal, they're paid basically in accordance with the structure that exists in baseball now. A certain amount for their 0 to 3 years, maybe a little bit more than they would have gotten. A certain amount for their arbitration years, roughly comparable to what they would have gotten. And then free agent years are where they are the most expensive, where they get paid the most. It follows the same kind of tack in that respect. So yes, Franco is still owed 174 of the 182, and we'll see how this plays out for the Rays. It's not playing out well for them, at least in terms of a player that they invested in who is not going to be available to them. A guy who might have been a superstar in Major League Baseball, and now his entire career is in question.
Ken, you're a professional. We're going to let you go. We know that you have some breaking news that you were looking at your phone, because when you never look off the screen. So if you just break it now, you don't have to type anything up. You don't have to do any of that stuff.
Actually, Eric, I was looking at the story I wrote today to make sure I got the phrasing right. Aggravated felony. I didn't even get it right. I couldn't even say it. It's an aggravated felony under immigration law if he is convicted of sexual abuse of a minor. So these are confusing terminologies, or at least new terminologies that I'm not familiar with necessarily. That's why I was looking at the screen.
There you go. None of us went to law school, but
we thought he had who Imanaga was signing with, and then he fooled us. He lied to us.
Yeah, well, that would be. I can tell you, it'll be by Thursday. So
hopefully,
yes, it will.
Yeah, that would be nice. All right, Ken. Well, hopefully, we'll get some signings going when we talk to you next. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ken Rosenthal, with us on FT. And fair territory is out there for the world. All of this still obviously very much relevant and in play. The show came out late Sunday night talking about the Boris Four. None of them are still signed. Much more in Ken's Hall of Fame ballot. He breaks down that Giants-Mariners trade with Robbie Ray and Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeSclafani. Dude and Dork of the Week. And questions asked include Mets question. There's a Red Sox question. There's a Twins question. So all of it's up there right now. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, if you're listening, whatever else. Okay. Right now, let's check out our daily look at a team with our BetMGM odds from this past season. So we are going to the St. Louis Cardinals today and their World Series odds heading into the season last year at plus 2,000. We use the midway point of the season as a guide to see where their World Series odds were at that point, July 10th. They were pretty much already out of it by then. July 10th, they were plus 12,500, which is probably where Todd Father was licking his chops like, hey, NL Central's not that great. If things break, can make a lot of dough out this team. And obviously, they didn't make the playoffs. How quickly, I mean, obviously, we could look back. Technically, all of our shows are logged on YouTube. But how quickly did you guys give up on the Cardinals? Do you remember, Todd Father? Were you giving up on them pretty quickly, or did it take you some time? Because I'm saying the NL Central is just not that great. It's the second worst division in baseball last season, most likely. So if you're looking at St. Louis struggling, you're like, there's not that much competition here.
Didn't they go on a run where they lost a lot of games
right away?
It was right in the season. And that's probably when I was like, all right, that's probably it for me. I don't remember any other time, but I remember when they lost a whole bunch of games early in the season. I'm like, well, this isn't going to bode well for them.
They rebounded a little bit. They had that run. I mean, it was right after that, and it was short, where their offense kind of picked up the slack. But it was one of those seasons, in my mind, Kratz, where they're like, oh, look, we're having like a week and a half where we're suddenly scoring a lot, but then their offense was terrible. They were 10-24. Then they had an 11-3 run, where 11 wins, 3 losses, little run right after that where the offense was cranking. But then they fell apart again.
Yeah, I think it was like their first 10 series of the year. They lost the opening game of the series.
Yes.
I remember telling Todd, and he made a cool 400 on that. But I'm trying to think when we stopped believing in them. I know thinking back, everybody had, and I was, too much Brewers love. Clearly, I picked them to go to the World Series in the playoffs. They were 2 and done, so that didn't work out. But I just felt like their starting rotation wasn't very good. So maybe 2 months into it, you sit there and you go, is this team really going to turn the offensive around enough that it's going to be like, okay, offense is going to just carry this team to a bunch of 9-7 wins. And, I feel like maybe June was when it was time when they brought Wilson back for the second time to be the catcher again. It was just it was a team that just couldn't ever pull out of it. I thought the Mets had a better chance of rebounding than the Cardinals. Both teams, we've done their BetMGM odds looking back for the season. And I thought the Mets at some point were going to go on just a crazy run.
I never gave up on the Cardinals.
Not even on
not even once they were eliminated. I still thought they had it. No, I stuck with them because I thought they'd win this division handily. I said they'd win it handily, and they didn't. So, I mean, listen, you didn't think their pitching would fall apart the way it did, and that's what kind of killed them. And then they traded away some guys, and guys weren't healthy, and they didn't hit also. So, yeah, it was a tough year in Birdland, but they made moves. They signed 3. They said they wanted 3 starting pitchers. They did it early, and it's a new year for the Birds on the bat.
We have a new bonus coming your way from our friends at BetMGM, the new offer for the FT fam. Same bonus code, though, FOUL, F-O-U-L. Bet $5, get $158 instantly. Place your first BetMGM sportsbook wager through the app of at least $5, and you'll receive $158 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. You download the app, sign up and deposit at least $5, place a wager in the amount of at least $5 at standard odds price. And then once you do that, you'll receive $158 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And let's slap. There have been a lot of requests for a particular clip that has gone reviral involving Todd Frazier. Todd, Father, you're back with us, Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay, Thursday is when we start to unravel the story. That's all I'm going to say. There's been a lot of requests. Like Instagram DMs were bumping the last week or so, just sending the same clip. And I'm like, we got you. We're listening. So, little teaser. Kratz hats, what do you got?
God, I know you don't watch the show all the time when you're off.
Neither do you. Go ahead.
I do watch it all the time. I'm watching X episodes now. I want you to make sure you just tune in tomorrow for my backdrop, okay? You'll feel a lot of jealousy. But I got a Indianapolis Indians hat, not the Louisville Bats. Indianapolis Indians, AAA for the Pirates, 2 seasons there.
Who's the manager? Dean Kremer?
Frank Krembliss. No, Mean Dean was the pitching coach. Thank God it wasn't Dean Kremer.
No, he was a sick human being. I loved every second of him.
Dean Kremer, thumbs down.
Oh, wow, bro. You always, anybody I like, you don't like. You were leaving on a sour note. I'm not happy.
That's why we have you two together.
Tomorrow.
Wait, I saw what's tomorrow. I want to know.
Are you going to reveal it? Or
yeah, because I want to know.
Kratz reveal it.
Oh,
I want Todd to tune in tomorrow. But
I have questions. I have questions.
No, ask him tomorrow. You're on tomorrow's show.
Yeah, but I got to prep.
Stop it. Stop it.
All right, are you going to be actually where it says you're going to be?
Yes.
Yes.
In another state?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Lies,
is it like lies. Is it like a
music's playing you off?
Thingy? Like I don't know. Is it like a camp or is it like a? Are you going to be instructing kids?
It's a camp.
Okay.
Oh, I know where you're going now.
Do you?
You're coming to Tom's River to help out my boys get better. Good for you. Thank you.
Tom's River.
Also, Jonathan Papelbon joining us tomorrow. Maury Brown, this is a request from many fans who want to know more about the business of baseball, the RSN deals, and how that's affecting teams and their salaries.
That baby don't look like me.
We're lining it up. I don't know what you're talking about.
You never saw Maury Povich?
Oh, the talk show host.
Yeah, there was a song where he'd come out with like an envelope and he'd be like, the results are in.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, you are not the father, Scott. And he'd be like, there was a song, that baby don't look like
me. Yeah.
Wow.
Very, very good.
We have a lot to look forward to tomorrow. We'll see everyone then.
Stay dry.
You stay
dry.
Safe
travels to Tom's River, Aaron.
We don't want you.